What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of NFL Turf Talk live here on DSM Media's Philadelphia Twitter channel and our Turf Talk YouTube channel. So, guys, do yourself a favor, do us a favor. Make sure to tap in on Twitter at DSM_media. Smash that follow button and then check out the link tree in our bio. It will take you directly to all three of our YouTube channels. Make sure to smash that subscribe button, drop your thoughts, comments, and questions, and talk about whatever you guys want to get into. Today, we are breaking down the Week 16 slate, man. 3 weeks to go, brother. It doesn't feel real sometimes when it's August and we're all hypothetical and we're talking about week 1 and we can't wait for football to be back, and then the season just flies by like this. But we have some playoff implications to get into today. We had some playoff implications that mattered big time yesterday. Ravens get a win over the Steelers. Both teams now 10-5, Scotty. And then you had the Chiefs outlasting the Texans. Mahomes plays through the ankle injury or whatever was going on throughout the week. Sure. Chiefs still one loss, and then you had a big Thursday night game as well, man. We talked about that Broncos team a little bit on Thursday. Chargers come out and handle business, drop over 30 on that Broncos defense. So that was a very big win for the Chargers. A little disappointing if you were buying into the Broncos a little bit like myself and that defense. So we're going to talk about those games. We're going to get into this slate. I hate to break it to everybody, it's not a great slate. If you're an Eagles fan like us, you got the Eagles at 1. There's not much else to really go for. There's the Vikings Seahawks. That game's not televised around here, so we'll do our best getting into these bets and our predictions and previews and stuff, man. But what's going on?
Yeah, man, it's this slate is interesting because it's mostly middling teams that have playoff implications today.
Yeah,
you got most of the bigger contenders, I guess, out of the way yesterday. And then even on Thursday, that was a big divisional matchup of two teams that look to be headed to the postseason in the AFC. So it'll be interesting. I mean, just looking at some of there's teams that aren't that good this year that still have those players that you like to watch. And I'm talking about the Bengals, right? They're 6-8. They have this like very, very outside chance that they can make the postseason. Do you think that they're going to do anything when they make it? No, not really.
Right.
But it still would be pretty cool for them to make their way back into the postseason with the way Joe Burrow's played this year, with the way Jamar Chase has played this year. Ultimately, he's been arguably the best wide receiver. I don't even think it's arguable. He's approaching the Triple Crown. So things like that are interesting. You got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers who could maybe end the Cowboys' playoff hopes tonight, right? The Cowboys 6-8. Once again, very outside chance of postseason play. But it really is. It's just middling stuff like that. You got San Fran visiting Miami. That's another 6-8 versus 6-8. Who's going to knock the other out of the postseason hopes? But yeah, man, I feel like they gave us all the action early in Week 16 outside of the Eagles and Commanders. I think obviously that's a marquee matchup today, but not much, like you said, outside of that.
They definitely did. They gave us 6 playoff teams in the AFC on
and you
Thursday
said we're not getting Minnesota and Seattle game. Is that correct?
I believe so, because it's at 4:05. So the 4:25 is normally
that's the other game, right?
Yeah, and I'm doubting that one's televised around here. So Red Zone. That's the issue with days like this, man. Red Zone is one of the greatest creations that we've come up with. Yeah. But on days like this, when the games just aren't that intriguing, it's I don't want to call it background noise because I'm sitting down and I'm watching, but I am not as tuned in. And
I know what you mean,
for
man.
A day like this, so
it does kind of stink
and
when
then
it's
it might
like
just
that.
be like a relaxing type of like
yeah,
after that.
Yeah. No, I feel that if you don't have like fantasy playoffs or anything like that, that's about the only thing that keeps my attention at this point. Because you're right, it's so exciting. Excuse me, as we approach the postseason now, that you're just hyper focused on the bigger matchups between the bigger teams and just getting ready for the postseason. So it'll be interesting to see what we get into as the show goes on. We'll see what the comments, what the viewers are saying and what they want to talk about. But I guess we could just start with Thursday night, man. That was It was an entertaining game. Like at the end of the day, it didn't work out in my favor or your favor,
No,
I don't believe.
no,
Started out great for us. It
sure did.
was spectacular, quite honestly.
Halftime. At halftime, it was great.
And second half, the Broncos like literally
Yep.
forgot how to play football.
Yep.
So what are your thoughts coming out of that game?
Disappointing, obviously, for betting purposes. We had the Broncos, I believe, +3.
Yeah.
At one point or another, they were up 24-13 in the third quarter, and then everything kind of went to shit. So that's a problem. The defense, man, I think that's the biggest story, right? Because that's kind of their calling card. And that's what we were thinking when we were talking about them on Thursday night, potentially being a team that could win a wild card round matchup in the postseason. You let Justin Herbert do whatever he wanted to in the second half. He was very efficient. And like we said, just the lack of playmakers in this game. So the fact that Herbert and that rushing attack was able to do what they wanted against that Broncos defense is a little disappointing because it's not the Ravens and Lamar and Derrick Henry. It's not Mahomes. It's not Josh Allen. It was Herbert and Lad McConkey. You know what I mean? So it was rough for the Broncos there, but it's a big win for the Chargers. It keeps them right in the thick of things for that playoff race out in the AFC. And Herbert's got an opportunity to silence some of his critics, right? Especially talking about the postseason. And I think that's kind of been a story with him, with Josh Allen, with a couple other quarterbacks around the league, doing more with less. So if he's able to get this Chargers team to the playoffs with less, if he's able to potentially win a playoff game with less, something that he has not done in his career, it would be a big step forward for Justin Herbert and the Chargers moving forward, because then they can kind of reanalyze in the offseason and figure out, okay, where we need to add. Maybe they go and be aggressive in the wide receiver market, and maybe they surround Herbert with more talent next year and try to go for it.
Yeah, so as I'm listening to, I do want to ask you one more thing. Out of the Broncos and Chargers, which one had bigger implications for you? Like, are the Broncos just like overly disappointing in this case, or was this just a bigger win for Herbert to kind of get that monkey off of his back, kind of like you were saying?
Yeah, no, I think it was definitely bigger for Herbert and the Chargers, especially to show that side of the offense, to do what they did against the defense, like Martian is talking about. It's definitely disappointing for the Broncos. I just think when it comes to Denver, I know I hyped them up a little bit on Thursday night. I had them at number 10 or not 9 in my power rankings, and I am still bought into the defense, but it makes you rethink, you know what I mean, about just how talented that team is, because Bo Nix at the end of the day is not going to go in the postseason and go on some magic carpet ride and start taking over football games. So you're going to need that defense to step up if you're Denver in the postseason, if you're lucky enough to make it, but definitely for the Chargers and Herbert, it was pretty huge.
Yeah. And you know, when you talk about the Broncos, man, and when I was really, really watching that offense, it felt like Bo Nix was being asked to do a lot to make that offense even look half decent, man. He was 29 for 40 in that game. He didn't fumble the ball, right? Like, I don't think he had any turnovers in this game. He did have one fumble, but it got recovered by Marvin Mims, it looks like. But nonetheless, didn't turn the ball over in this game. 29 for 40 from the field, over 250 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns. That sounds like a pretty good game from Bo Nix. So I think from that standpoint, it's kind of positive for Denver. But on the other side of things, it really just it like blasts out that this Broncos team has like almost zero talent around Bo Nix on that offense. You talk about Courtland Sutton. We talked about this on Thursday night. Courtland Sutton is solid wide receiver, like maybe a solid wide receiver too, maybe. Who else? Javonte Williams, ever since that ACL tear, he's not the same, man. He does not look that healthy anymore. He looks slow. They had the guy Estime, and so we're going down the list of guys like you might not even know who some of these guys are. That's what we're talking about. Bo Nix kind of leading a 9-win team right now, 9-6. In Denver. So it's kind of a good thing what Bo is doing. I do believe that. This was a game in LA against Justin Herbert where if you look at it on paper and you accept Justin Herbert and all the hype that comes with him, it's a game the Chargers should go out there and win. Like, he should go out there and beat the young rookie quarterback. But it's just the way it like played out. It's them coming out in the first half rolling, and then second half just looking like a completely different team. Maybe that's on the Chargers, but maybe that's more just on that offense and maybe not knowing what to do in certain situations because they can't run the football. That's what it comes down to.
Agreed. And I didn't realize, man, I was just checking now. I didn't realize how bad, I guess I should say, the back end of the AFC is. We know it's very top heavy and there's a lot of talent and some of the best quarterbacks, but Denver and both teams from Thursday night, we're sitting here like, oh, in the thick of things for the play. They are almost like locked into the playoffs.
Yeah.
They control the 6 and 7 seeds right now individually. And then behind them are like 3 teams that are 6 and 8 with 3 games left to play. So it's going to be very difficult for one or both of those teams not to make the postseason. So we are going to find out a little bit more about both of these teams in about a month or so, man. So that was I was surprised to see like the Colts were the next team up at 6 and 8. Kind of
it's funny you say that, man, because I was noticing the same exact thing when I was going through getting my notes together for today. All the talk about the AFC being like this juggernaut in comparison to the NFC. The NFC's records are a little bit better, even down to like the 10th best record is Arizona at 7 and 7. That's better than what the 8th seed in the AFC. So we're comparing the lows of the lows, but it's just interesting. But I guess when you look at the top part of the conferences, that's where
it's so dominant.
You make the difference, but. I don't know, man. It's us not believing in Minnesota, right? There's 3 12-2 teams in the NFC. We just happen to not believe in one of them, but they are 12-2 at the end of the day. They have a better record than the Buffalo Bills.
Yes.
So it's interesting how this has played out, man.
No, it is, and I was kind of taken aback because I'm sitting here like, man, this is a big game. This is a critical game. And I'm like, oh well. The loser still ends up pretty okay, especially for the fact that it went LA's way where they were the 8-win team before Denver was already at 9.
Yeah.
So it's like if Denver wins that game and gets 10, then it becomes a little bit more interesting because LA's sitting there at 8, and then you have the other 2 teams with 6 with 3 left to go for those teams. So it's like, all right, you could find your way there. The fact that LA comes away with this win, I'm not going to say solidifies the AFC bracket, but it puts it very, very close to 100%.
The cool thing and the thing that will get interesting, I don't know exactly how it would work out. If the Broncos, so they play the Bengals next week in Cincinnati, and then they play the Chiefs in Denver to end the season. So maybe they get lucky. Maybe the Chiefs don't have to play their starters in the last week of the season. But the Bengals playing for something right now, right? Even if it's just spoiler, but to your point, 9 and 6 to 6 and 8, it's going to be really, really hard.
They need a lot of work and a lot of help. Speaking of 9 and 6, man, another team that played yesterday.
Yes, sir.
The Houston Texans. Now, I get like you were in Arrowhead. Like I'm not trying to spring the hammer down on them today. It like, you know what I mean? But like, do they get a pass? They get a pass from everybody. They're not talked about. They're not ridiculed. They're not put down. Like they have a lot of freaking talent. And CJ Stroud was put on this pedestal after his rookie season. And they added to the defense. They're 9 and 6. They don't play good football.
Stroud, what were they last year?
I think 10 or 11 wins.
10? Yeah, at least 10.
Something like that.
So we'll see.
But 9 and 6 is not good enough.
No.
For that team. And they just, I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, let me just check here. With this loss to the Chiefs, like, have they even beaten anyone? So they beat the Bills earlier in the year by 3. Okay. Yeah, they got their shit kicked in by Minnesota. They lost to Green Bay. They lost to the Lions. And they've lost to the Chiefs. They have wins over the likes of the Jags and the Dolphins and the Cowboys and the Colts division and the Patriots. Like, the Bears. Like, that's just not
their division is all horrible.
That talent. And it feels like no one talks about CJ Stroud. No one talks about this Texans team underperforming.
And now Tank Dell goes down yesterday as well. He's going to be done for the season. So it's like another notch in the excuse case for CJ Stroud. It's hard to tell if it's fair or not, right? Like it's hard to gauge whether we're being fair with the Texans. I do think, to your point, as far as like reaching expectations or approaching them, not even close for me. Offensively, man, they have looked dysfunctional all year. And I think the biggest kicker and the biggest detractor for CJ Stroud in that case, when you talk about the expectations versus the product, is that Joe Mixon has played really well. He's played really good, like a top 5 back in the NFL this season. And still the offense is middling. Still CJ Stroud is turning the ball over. Yesterday, the 2 interceptions in that game are the difference when you look at it at the end of the game. I get it. They lose Tank Dell. They've lost Stephon Diggs now. I saw CJ Stroud's reaction to the injury yesterday. Obviously, it's detrimental to the team. I'm sitting here asking myself, are they cooked, man? Are they cooked? They play the Ravens next. Like, they're going to make the playoffs. They're going to win their division.
Yeah.
But what are they going to do offensively? It's not going to get easier with losing Tank Dell.
I think there's a lot of pressure on CJ Stroud's shoulders. I don't care that this is only year 2. And I think I'm that way. And look, I was on the CJ Stroud hype train. I think CJ Stroud is still a very good quarterback. Okay. It's very early on in his career. But I guess like from our perspective, and we always have drama and we always have the noise and ridicule and we always need to be better. I get frustrated when people, smart, intelligent, ball-knowing people that get paid lots of money to go on a podcast or go on television and talk, and former athletes of the game go on and talk about these guys and put them on a fucking pedestal and then don't say anything about it when they're not living up to their expectations. They did it with Jaden Daniels this year. Jaden Daniels is a very good quarterback. He's been here for a cup of coffee.
See,
CJ Stroud, 1 year in the league, made the playoffs. Great rookie season. But you put him up here. He's top 5. He's top 5. He's next in the AFC. He's been horrible this year.
Because you know what the problem is? Because the people on these shows, and I want to commend our guy, LaShawn McCoy, because I've seen him do it on the show to his credit, but they don't call each other out for their takes that they've said in the past. And I think that's a big problem in the industry, is like people can say whatever and then they just skate by acting like they were always on the side that they're now on. I think that's a big problem in sports, man. But it is funny when you talk about the Jaden Daniels thing, and I know we're going to get into that game a lot before it starts at 1 p.m. today. But it's funny how that conversation, just because you brought it up, man, it's funny how we've already gravitated back to like Jaden Daniels being this upper class quarterback and that being the difference in why the Commanders are going to beat the Eagles today in DC. Like, it's almost like we just have like reversed the last couple weeks. It's like the Eagles have lost games, the Commanders have gone on a win streak, and Jaden Daniels has once again reclaimed the NFC East. It amazes me, but it's to your point about these young quarterbacks and them being crowned at a very young stage in their careers before the NFL's even had time to adjust to the way that these guys play. Like, it's interesting, man. But I am concerned for the Houston Texans, though. Get back to the point,
because like I said, like if like they're going to win their division, they're going to host a playoff game. Probably bringing this up after they lose in Arrowhead to Mahomes on a short week isn't the one I'm putting the stamp on. But it's just been a reoccurring thing. And like you mentioned, when I'm sitting there watching them, and the turnovers at a crucial, like, just bad. Like, and I think the thing that you talked about too with Joe Mixon and how he's been able to kind of revitalize that running game in Houston, that's another problem for CJ Stroud, because you have help. There's no reason, and I know the injuries are going to do it now, but when they were healthy, there's no reason that offense should be boring, should be stale, should be plain. Shouldn't be explosive, right? And they just are. Like, at the end of the day, man, you scored what yesterday? 19 points? That's not good enough.
Like, should the Texans, like, I don't know if I'm being fair, because the Eagles, obviously they have Saquon, they're a run first team. Should the Texans be a run first team, in your opinion?
With the success that Mixon has had this year, yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. And I think it would make a lot of sense for Stroud as well, especially because he has that mobility. I've seen him, get out on a bootleg and make plays on the run. It'll help him in the passing game if you play off of the run for them. But I do feel like you're right. Like, I know there's been games where Mixon's got the ball 27, 28 times, but I feel like every time I check in on Houston, Stroud's throwing 30-plus passes.
Yeah.
I don't know what he did yesterday. I got to check.
He had
39
2 interceptions, 39 attempts.
39.
Man. In a one-score-ish game.
Joe Mixon, 14 carries for 57 yards. CJ Stroud had 2 carries as the quarterback. Dameon Pierce, 1 carry. So they ran the ball to a running back 15 times.
And you look on the other side with Patrick Mahomes, they gave the running backs 20 carries for running backs, 3 carries for Xavier Worthy.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's the difference, man. To take it to the other side with the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes looked fine, rammed his way into the end zone. So I think he's good. He had a pretty decent day, a clean day. And the Chiefs, once again, they're rolling, man. Like I think they've skated by, man, and we've been like, oh, it's these close games, and like, oh, they're not playing good. They're skating to the postseason. They're 14-1, man, and they're just winning ball games.
They're going to have home field throughout. It's going to go through Arrowhead.
They're winning one-score games. That's not a positive. That's almost a negative when you're talking about Patrick Mahomes in one-score games getting practice at one-score games in tight situations. So yeah, I think it's they're on a one-way collision course to the Super Bowl, man. In my opinion, as much hype as these other AFC teams have caught this season, it's funny how the Chiefs are right there at 14-1. It's crazy.
It has to be one of the weirdest seasons I can remember, and how they're being covered, and even how we've talked about them. And maybe it's just out of frustration, maybe it's out of jealousy, but like there is some truth to the red flags. There is some truth to Kelce. There is some truth to how Mahomes, to turnovers and everything like that. They're 14-1.
Yeah.
They're 14-1. And yesterday, that's a Texans team that is going to be the 3 or 4 seed in the AFC. That is a playoff team. And they really kind of didn't struggle too much in this one. And it's just like, who's going to be the one to go there and do it? And when I say it's weird how they're being covered, because, dude, we're talking about the back-to-back Super Bowl champions.
Yeah.
We're talking about a team going for a three-peat that is 14-1 with the best quarterback on the planet. And we're talking about them like it's only a matter of time before Josh Allen or Lamar or Russ or someone walks in their crib and beats them.
Right, Russ throwing pick sixes last night to close out games. He's going to do it, right?
Right.
It is interesting, and I think it's even wilder, man, that you look and they're doing it with like Kareem Hunt, Samaj P.
Like
Ryan,
it's 2017.
D-Hop. It's like, let's just throw it back. Hollywood Brown too, man. He makes some big catches in that game yesterday. Xavier Worthy, the rookie, shows up. So they're getting answers from all over, man. But no, it is interesting, and I know we're going to talk about the Ravens and Steelers next. The Chiefs do go to Pittsburgh, man. And Pittsburgh right now, we can talk about them right now because this is the next game. But their backs are now against the wall.
Yep.
Like, they have lost. This would be 3 in a row if they lose to Kansas City at home in Pittsburgh. So they lost to Philly, obviously, in Philadelphia, and then Baltimore in Baltimore. 2 losses that you can accept and take on the chin, but, like, you do want to beat a good team at some point. Kansas City, man. Like, is there a chance Pittsburgh wins this game?
I think so for sure. But again, like, I'll tell you this.
Yeah.
And again, it's very hard to say this because I just did it with the Texans, and it's not totally fair. If Pittsburgh loses, I'm done. Like, I'm done thinking they're going to do anything in the postseason. I don't care how good the offense and Russ looked for the first 4 weeks that when he got injected into the starting lineup. I don't care about TJ Watt. I don't care about that defense. At one point or another, you have to put your big boy pants on and beat a contender, beat a good team. And if you go through this gauntlet, this 3-game losing streak potentially by losing to us, the Ravens, and the Chiefs, how the fuck am I supposed to take you real? Now, I understand you beat the Ravens a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
You had a 2-game lead, 3-game lead in your division. You could have wrapped up your division 2 weeks ago.
Dropped a game to the Browns as well,
Yeah.
mixed in there that we just can't ignore. The 3-win Browns.
Like you should have this division locked up, and now you are tied at 10-5 with Baltimore.
Yeah.
And you get the Chiefs.
Yeah.
And you're looking at a situation now where you might have to play catch up in the final week of the season when you could have just won a game and solidified a home field playoff game.
Yeah. It's
Crazy.
interesting, man. George Pickens' injury obviously hurting them. I mean, they just like I think that's what's become apparent to me watching them the last couple weeks as well, is just seeing how empty they are when George Pickens is not on the field. I mean, their running backs look mid. All of it looks very mid outside of George Pickens when he's not in the lineup, man. But I will say this. The Kansas City Chiefs going to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's backs on the wall, like on the brink of losing 3 in a row, on the brink of losing their chance at the division crown. It wouldn't surprise me if the Steelers somehow figure out how to win this game. I won't lie to you. Would I put my money either way? Probably not going to go either way in that game, honestly. But the Steelers, they do need it. And if they have any ounce of like what we thought they were in them, right? You got to have some pride at home and take care of business with backs on the wall. So to your point, if they lose this one, it kind of is like, okay, like they'll make the playoffs, but what's it matter?
Yeah. And I know I'm getting ahead of myself and talking about like we're getting into the Christmas Day game, but like if they do lose, that means obviously who wins? Kansas City. How's that make you? Does it make you feel? How much worse does that make you feel?
Yeah.
Because again, now if Kansas City starts going, they beat the Texans, and then a couple days later they beat the Steelers, and then they did like they just keep knocking over.
Like
chip
you're just
by
playing
chip.
playoff football already. Like okay,
right.
So yeah. How'd you feel about the Ravens in this one, man? Tom Brady said they are I think he called him a sleeping giant or something like that.
I don't think that he's wrong, but your resume is what your resume is,
right?
Like you had opportunities to be that giant. I guess I'm trying to say, like no one wants to see them in the playoffs. Like
very
yes,
good
at any point in time, if that defense wakes up and Lamar and Henry's doing what he did yesterday, and Lamar's doing MVP type things, they are arguably the best team in football. You have 5 losses. And not that that's like some crazy thing at the end of the year. If they go 12-5, that's a great record. But what I'm saying is, you know what I mean? Like the Eagles only have 2 losses. The Lions only have 2 losses. The Chiefs only have 1 loss. Like you are what your resume says you are. So while they are a very talented team, I guess you should have just won the games for me to feel differently about you.
Yeah.
And I think that defense just isn't going to get the job done.
And I will say, man, there are things that, like, as good as Lamar has looked this season, there are some concerns, man, in moments. I have some concerns. Like,
first of all, everybody should have concerns because he's never fucking gotten the job done.
Brother, last night, I was riding with the Ravens last night. So I had money invested, so I was paying very close attention. And you know, I think I had Lamar 2 passing touchdowns, touchdown to Mark Andrews, and then Ravens money line that I threw 20 on. And obviously they got the touchdowns. All of that happened. I just need the Ravens to win the game. And they're driving down the field, and this man Lamar just throws the ball to Minkah Fitzpatrick. Just throws the ball to Minkah Fitzpatrick. I think Dill froze there. We'll get him off the screen. But Lamar just throws the ball directly to Minkah Fitzpatrick, and I'm just sitting there like, man, I'm thinking back to when the Ravens played the Eagles, and obviously a good sturdy defense in a big moment in the second half of that ball game. And it's not that Lamar, had some big turnover, but just wasn't able to make the plays needed to get his team a W. And it's fine. You can sit there and you can say the Eagles have the best defense in the league, whatever, statistically. Steelers have one of the best defenses in the league, statistically. But the point is, Lamar MVP, the numbers that he puts up, it shouldn't matter at all. In this matchup with the Steelers, he ultimately gets bailed out by the defense. In a sense, I'd say bailed out. They were leading the game. So the only thing that the Steelers could have done is maybe tied the game up if they drive down the field, but didn't have to worry about it. Didn't have to worry about pressure, anything like that after the big interception, because the defense gets one right back and returns it to the end zone for a pick six. So it was interesting just seeing how this game plays out, but I do have some concerns with Lamar Jackson moving forward, just in big moments and having to make big throws. I think Derrick Henry obviously had a hell of a game in this one, and that's going to be your recipe to success going forward in the future. But Lamar is going to obviously have to make some throws, and that's the same conversation that people were having with about Jalen Hurts. Trying to see. Okay, yeah. Dylan, I am still not seeing you on my screen here. I have no idea what is going on. Hopefully we can get him back in here shortly. But yeah, I think that's about it from the Ravens and Steelers and the action early on this week. Obviously, those matchups were huge yesterday as far as playoff implications and moving forward. And now Christmas Day, you get these same four teams with opposition mixed and matched. So you'll get the Steelers and the Chiefs, and then you'll get the Texans and the Ravens on Christmas Day, which is why these guys played on Saturday this week. So big matchups coming in week 17 as well. But let's take a look at the 1 p.m. slate here for week 16. So obviously we got the Eagles taking on the Washington Commanders. We're not going to get into that game too much here, just because obviously we're going to have the Eagles pregame over on the DSM Media Philly channel right after this. But you look at the 1 p.m. slate, we got a couple games here. So we got the LA Rams 8-6 visiting the New York Jets 4-10. We got the New York Giants visiting the Atlanta Falcons. 2-12 team versus 7-7 team. Michael Penix Jr. getting his first start of the year, obviously taking the place of Kirk Cousins. It was announced the other day that Kirk Cousins is actually going to be released before March, some date in March before his bonus will kick in. They will be releasing him. So what a downward spiral Kirk Cousins has faced there in Atlanta. And it seems to happen just about everywhere that he goes. Dylan, let me go out and come back in. Maybe that will fix it.
Am I on here? All right. Yeah, I think I'm on here. Martian Hunter, if you're watching right now, let me know. Let me know if you can see me. I don't know what the hell is going on today. Great show, isn't it, guys? Oh, all right, bet. Scotty's coming. Oh. Oh, never fails, guys. Never fails. It's like one of the most awkward things I've ever done. I got a story for you. So last night at the bar, Hunter, right? Taking a piss. Single bathroom. There's a line. All of a sudden, I hear the door open behind me. And I go, yo, someone's in here. Someone just comes in, no idea who it is. I like kind of glance, turn around. Dude just puts a key bump in my face and is like, you want some? Nah, I'm good. So that's your story for the day, Hunter. Go Birds. Want a little bump? All right, let's hope we can get Scotty back in here ASAP. I think he was talking about Lamar Jackson, but I'm not sure. And I don't want to just start rambling about one of these games that absolutely stink today before he gets back in here. But if you guys do have any best bets, if you do have any games you do want to talk about, drop them in the comments and I'll get to them a while. But yeah, this slate is no bueno. I'm very, very happy the Eagles play at 1. And then, kind of just relax for the rest of the night. Is Scary Terry having a game today? No, he is not. He's already been locked down in Guantanamo Bay one time, and I'm sure he'll be having another visit today. But we'll obviously talk about that on the pregame show in a few minutes, so make sure to tap into that as well. But yeah, the Eagles Commanders is probably the biggest game of the 1 o'clock slate. Actually, by far, it's the biggest game of the 1 o'clock slate. Really, the only one that has playoff implications between both teams. There's a lot of, you have the Lions and Bears, you have the Giants and Falcons. So you have teams that need to win and are trying to win their divisions or trying to, kind of position for seeding, but they're playing teams that are already eliminated from the postseason. So you got the Eagles Commanders, and then at 4 o'clock, like we were saying earlier, Vikings Seahawks is an interesting game. I think the Seahawks, I don't want to say showed their true colors last week, but they were on a 4-game winning streak at one point, I believe. And then Geno kind of did some old school Geno things on the year. He's 14 touchdowns and 13 interceptions. So quite a problem. Are we all good?
Yeah, man. I don't know if it's a StreamYard thing or what, because I don't understand how both of our internets could crap out at the same virtually the same time period.
Like I popped in the screen, and I see you kind of like just still talking and looking. I'm like, I'm here. Like I
couldn't see you. Like it was just a black spot on my screen, but I'm looking at the stream and you're showing on the stream. I can hear you on the stream. But so I don't know what that is, man. And then when I hopped out, I tried to hop back in. Now I was the black screen and it wouldn't bring my camera up or my mic. So yeah, I don't know, man. But yes, here's the show, Week 16 preview. Welcome.
I will say this: it's very fitting for this week's slate. It's very fitting.
Shitty.
The shitty. Yeah, it's just that is the word. That's the theme of today. Shitty, dude. I don't know if you heard my story that it went out when Hunter wanted a bedtime.
All I heard was key bump.
Yeah, dude. Literally, like it was a small bathroom. And there was a line. Like I was in the line and then I went in, so you can clearly see all the dudes standing against the wall waiting to go in. And so like you go to the right when you walk in the door and then it's right there. So I'm taking a piss and then I hear someone opening the door and I'm like, I don't turn around, but I just go, yo, like someone's in here. And then the door continues to open. So I'm like, was he going to piss in the sink? Like, I don't know what he's doing. And he doesn't say anything. So I turn around to like see who the hell's behind me, and he just holds it out. There's a little bump on his key, and I'm like, he's like, "You want some?" I'm like, "Nah, bro, I don't know you. I'm good. Can I please wash my hands and you get the fuck out of my way?"
Incredible, man. Incredible.
People are nuts, dude.
People are absolutely that's the definite truth, but here we are, man. Yeah. Week 16, man. Anything that you are. Let me put it this way. There's a couple games that am I going to be watching them? No, because the Eagles will be playing. But the Rams at the Jets, for instance, the 8-6 Rams at the 4-10 New York Jets.
Yeah.
Yet the Rams are only 3-point favorites going into that one, man.
I feel like the Jets get a generous line every week. There's something fishy every single week about the Jets, and I fall for it, and I buy into it, and I just think of the talent. I think of Breece Hall. I think of Garrett Wilson. I think of Devontae Adams. I think of Sauce Gardner, and I'm like, man, like they can win this game, and then they just continue to disappoint. So, no, I would not touch that game with a 10-foot pole, but it would not surprise me if the Jets win this game outright.
If they really win.
It really would not, especially and the Rams are just an up and down team,
so
right?
You're not sold on the Rams just yet, basically.
Well, I don't think the Rams defense is good at all. Yeah, 1000%. So that's kind of where my head's at with that team. But
what about the Falcons hosting the New York Giants, man?
that actually is a storyline we could have talked a little bit about. But Michael Penix makes his debut today. Also, Kirk, has he been cut yet, or what?
When? Technically been cut. I think by March he will be.
By March, okay, that's the date of the $10 million. Yeah. So to save themselves, basically to save themselves a penny on the dollar that they spent on Kirk Cousins this past offseason. Just to dump them. And I just think it's one of the funniest things to come about this year, because it's like right now people can look at it like, wow, look how smart that draft pick was. We were all laughing at the Falcons for taking a quarterback. Like, why? Blah, blah, blah. But I look at it as you just did bad business and you're an idiot.
You never needed to get Kirk Cousins.
You damn sure didn't need to pay Kirk Cousins what you did.
Yeah, exactly. At
this age, coming off of that injury,
somehow Kirk Cousins has done this to multiple teams. Yeah.
Oh, there's a quarterback or two that finds a way to do it every generation.
Yeah,
that just like Sam Bradford was one of them. Sam Bradford, yeah. I'm pretty sure Sam Bradford is like one of the top X amount of paid quarterbacks of all time
for his era.
Yeah.
In proportion to the contracts at the time.
Yeah. Chase Daniel, speaking of that dude on LaShawn McCoy, he's another one that just bounced around, career backup, and just continued to make millions of dollars. Josh McCown was around forever.
Yeah.
And just continued to make millions of dollars. There's one every once in a blue moon that just finds a way to continue to make money. I will say Kirk is probably the most talented of the guys that we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
But it's just funny when there's just a total history and lack of success in the playoffs and winning and everything. And they just continue to pay these guys. So it's
Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers came to my mind for some reason. He didn't do a bunch of team switching though.
Yeah.
He stayed with the Chargers for most of his career.
And then finished up with the Colts. Phillip Rivers is an odd name.
He's weird. He's a weird player, right? He was good though. He was good.
Yeah, but again, he was just, I don't want to say just a stat pattern, because he played in some big playoff games. I think they played in a couple of AFC championships, but and he was in the thick of the Brady, Manning, Roethlisberger era, right out in the AFC. So that's always difficult, but he's going to be linked to Eli forever because of the trade on draft night. And then it's like, well, who do you think was more talented? Well, I would say Phillip Rivers was the more talented quarterback. However, Eli Manning has 2 Super Bowl rings against Tom Brady.
Yeah.
And Phillip Rivers has 0, and I don't think was ever in a Super Bowl. So,
regular season GOAT is a good way to put it. I agree with you, man. Another quarterback switch in the NFL this week over in Cleveland. Jameis Winston getting benched officially. He got benched last week during the game, but
I don't get it. What is the benefit? Or unless you're openly trying to lose on purpose. And I'm not saying that to say Jameis is going to win you ball games. You're trying to throw the game by. He's so good. I'm saying you're 3-11. He was already a backup starting. Great teammate, great guy, fun. Except, like, what are you getting by starting? Who are they starting? Dorian Thompson-Robinson.
DTR.
What the fuck are you getting out of starting him
See
over
the
James?
future? I don't know. It's interesting, man. Cleveland is in a very particular spot
Yeah.
between Deshaun Watson, moving on from Baker
Speaking of
Mayfield and
bad
what he's
business.
doing. So,
Yeah. Speaking of bad business, Deshaun Watson definitely is amongst that conversation. Before we get out of here, though, man, and we'll jump over to the Eagles pregame show where we'll have a little bit more fun and hopefully better technical responsibilities. I was talking about it before you jumped on. The biggest game outside of Eagles Washington for us has to be that 4:05 Minnesota Seattle game.
yeah.
We're all Seahawks fans today. It's in Seattle. Geno Seahawks did not play well last week, possibly the last 2 weeks. I'm not sure. Is there a chance Seattle? I mean, I know there's a chance, but what likelihood would you put on Seattle coming away with the upset today? They're only 2.5-point underdogs against a 12-2 team.
This one's interesting, man. I'm glad you asked about it because I just have this weird feeling that Seattle is going to upset them today in Seattle. Obviously, Seattle needs it more. But I do think, like, matchup wise, they kind of match up really well with the Vikings, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because they do have a pretty decent secondary to match up with Justin Jefferson and Addison. So I don't expect those two to just go off like they've been going off against some teams this season. I expect Darnold to have, a difficult test in front of him. From a defensive standpoint, you're going to be in Seattle, so that's always tough to play there as well. So yeah, I think this is another, like, it's a test game, right? It's a test game between Seattle. Like, this is maybe my last shot for Seattle to really show me something. And then on the other side, Minnesota, if you are who your record says you are, you go into Seattle and you beat this team that just got manhandled last week by who was it that went it? Oh, Green Bay, of course. So Green Bay, a 10-win team, same team that's in your division, right? That you're gonna end up. Do they play again? I think they play one more time. Green Bay and Minnesota, and then Detroit and Minnesota. So if Green Bay can manhandle Seattle in Seattle, why can't the 12-2 Minnesota Vikings go in there and get a W somehow, some way? So this is a big spot for me, but I think this is my big letdown spot for the Minnesota Vikings. I think it's maybe more of an obvious one given the spread. But I like this matchup for the Seattle Seahawks. I think Kenneth Walker is supposed to return for this one. So that obviously gives him some versatility in the backfield. It always comes down to Geno for Seattle, man. Yeah. Is he going to give them a chance or not? If he goes out there and he's turning the ball over, obviously Minnesota, very opportunistic defense.
I said it.
He goes out there and turns the ball over. Yeah.
14-13 TD to INT ratio. Not good enough. Not First of all, only having 14
he can lose the game himself
for
Seattle.
Yeah. So is that the road for us? Minnesota lost today. Minnesota beats the Lions in week 18. Eagles went out 1 seed.
Yeah, Minnesota would win their division, I guess, maybe.
Possibly. I don't know
I don't know how that works, but yeah, I think this is definitely the one we need Minnesota to lose, because otherwise, to your point, we would need Detroit to lose to Chicago today, which good luck. They're catching Detroit in a revenge spot. I think, to be clear, I think the Bears are going to get dogged out today because the Lions, while we need them to lose a game, another one, I don't think it's going to be this one, but we would need the Bears to win that game if, the Vikings ultimately go on to win this one.
Agreed.
So, yeah, come on, Seahawks. Let's go, man.
Is that it, man? Is that it for this shitty
this shitty show? Do you have any plays for 1 p.m. outside of the Birds?
I'm not going to lie. I haven't looked enough because I'm probably just going to focus on the Eagles game and not have to worry about what's going on around it. On top of the fact that it is a shitty slate, I'm probably not going to put my money on any of these games, to be honest with you.
Fair enough. The only one I was looking at was that Detroit -7 against the Bears. Yeah. And then
maybe,
Tampa Bay.
yeah,
Tampa
I
Bay
think I'll
tonight.
take the Jets money line. Fuck out of here.
The Tampa Bay spread I do like against the Cowboys as well, man. But
What is that spread?
4.5. I think Tampa Bay goes in there and lights them up tonight.
Yeah, I agree.
Just
I agree.
my opinion, but
Baker has a chance to go for 40
in
touchdowns.
Dallas.
Baker Mayfield, I'm being dead serious, has a chance to throw for over 4,000 yards and 40 passing touchdowns this year. He's at over 3,600 with 32 touchdowns with 3 weeks remaining.
Make that make sense, man. Good season by Baker, though, for sure.
Why does he not get talked about in the MVP conversation?
The record. It's as simple as that.
I guess.
Yeah. I think it's as simple as that. 8-6.
Yeah.
But say he wins, the next 3? Do they have 3 more games?
Yeah.
So what? They could end up 11-6.
11-6. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, he could end up in the conversation.
I mean, dude,
depends, right?
42, 4,300 yards with almost 40 touchdowns. That's absurd.
Yeah.
And he's not even in the conversation, but we'll see how it goes. But that is going to do it for this this Sunday edition of Turf Talk, guys. If you are new to the channel, we do apologize for the technical difficulties and just sitting here for a couple minutes looking like an idiot. But yeah, never fails. Well, you can hop on over to the DSM Philadelphia YouTube channel. Do us a favor, do yourself a favor, subscribe. We're going to start the Eagles pregame show in about 10 minutes, a little less than 10 minutes, giving you guys our keys to victory, our best bets, and see how we feel about this Birds game in Washington. For myself, for Scotty, have a great rest of your Sunday.
See y'all later.